Welcome back, guys, to Cherry and
Beez.
This week's episode, we're gonna be doing tattoo ideas, kind of placements.
Placements, like where it is, what it is, how to pick out a good one, how to pick out your first one. And I feel like there's a few tips and tricks that I keep for almost all the tattoos that I pick out, and it's worked really well. It was a tattoo artist that mentioned it to me at one point, and it's just held true. And honestly, I think that it's made all the tattoos that I've gotten flow together better and just sit better on my body.
Yes, placement is everything. Like, I mean, if it doesn't flow with your body, it will always just kind of look just a little bit off.
Placed
like,
there, and it's fine to have one just placed there. Like, I have a few that I wouldn't say go anatomically, but it's the idea that when you start, like, filling in other spaces that you need that flow. Even if you have one or two choppy ones, it's fine, but the ones that you use to blend those ones together really need to hold true to the fact that it flows well and that it can wrap, basically. And we'll show you guys some examples of the things that we've done on ourselves for things like this. And I think that it needs to just... But yeah, no, it needs to flow. Okay, all right. Ugh. But no, it's held true for me for a lot of tattoos, and it's been very useful. Fuck, I forgot where my thought process was even. I will cut after I say that. Okay, moving forward.
So yes, we're gonna explain to you guys like how we've come up with some of our ideas for some of our tattoos.
Some of the cool ones we have, a couple stories, because I feel like the biggest thing that people ask when you're about to get a tattoo is, what do you want and where do you want it? And even being able to cross off one of those things, you're 50% of the way there. And I think that normally people come in it from one side or the other side, where they either know where they want or they know where they want it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
no, definitely.
All right. Okay.
Some of mine don't flow as well as other ones do, but there's been things that have happened. I don't know. I've done I went down and I did the claw tattoo challenge. Button. And so basically it was just it's what's it called? It's called Plankto, where you just reach down and it's just a random tattoo, and the tattoo you pull out of the machine is the tattoo that you get.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't find that one flows particularly well, but I didn't know where to put it that day, so I just threw it in between my shoulder blades, which was actually a big mistake. Like, I actually kind of regret it. It was just the one space that I had that was really open, and so I put it there because I lacked a better idea. But because I didn't think it all the way through and how I could have blended it with other pieces, I should have put it on, like, my leg or somewhere else where I didn't take up such a big piece of skin for such a small tattoo that then is hard to create something to flow around.
I see, yeah. No, I see your problem.
Yeah, like...
I've definitely done things like that before, too. But then, I mean, kind of found a way to save it. But at the same time, I'm someone who wants to be fully covered. So I'm kind of at the point where it's, like, okay for my legs to have weird ones placed. I had some weird ones on my second leg. Like, I placed, like, this little balloon here, like, super randomly, and I kind of regret it. I don't really like it. Everyone asks me if it's it-based. It's not it-based.
Is that it-based? To be fair, though, Stephen King's not a bad idea to have a tattoo.
But why it?
Because you like to lure children.
No. I hate clowns.
Underground sewers.
I hate clowns. So, I was actually planning on getting this guy covered to, like, cover up this area, and I don't love the neck on this one, but the area that he did, like, this part was, like, perfect.
Yes, because I
just don't love the neck.
No, but the wings itself flow really well
up my leg.
Yeah, around the shin, basically, and I think that's... So there's two things. So there's where it is, what it is, and where it's going. And I think that the key for picking out a good tattoo is having it flow anatomically. And so what I kind of mean by that is that when your back piece is a really good example of this. She has what do you have?
I have two girls with a deer and some mountains in the deer antlers with some trees and stuff to kind of like represent just like nature and shit. I know it's super dumb, but and then a peony. But I'm actually getting my back done soon with a whole nother concept kind of around it. So I'm really excited to see kind of how it ends up flowing. But
it'll be exciting. But nonetheless, though, the antlers go out big at the top where your shoulders are. And then it slowly starts to skinny downwards as it goes towards her midsection. And that's kind of the idea of anatomical flow, is that where your body gets, you're working with the natural curves of your body, and it ends up giving you a more flowing sort of, like, you're
complementing.
Yes, it's complementing the area, and it's accentuating your natural features instead of trying to fight against the area. Whereas what I did on my back, where now I don't know what to do with it, because I put something in there where it's just circle. It's like a sugar skull, and it's just circular, and it just sits there. I guess there's a little bit of flow because the head is bigger than the jaw, but it's not enough to really accentuate, like, the curves on my back, basically.
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I mean,
it's a good done tattoo. It's just sad that it's just in a
like, it's just back there, sort of. Yeah, like, I don't know. I just didn't know where to put it that day. But yeah, like, if you have an idea for a tattoo, I would say pick something that on where it's going to go on your body, that it actually, like, if it's bigger at the top, maybe a bicep where it flows downwards, or on the back, kind of. I don't know. I have a Lord of the Rings. I have even star right here. And so I wanted to actually have it where the bigger part was closer to my wrist, but I knew that anatomically it would flow better if the bigger part was closer to the bigger part of my arm, and then it went downwards, because in all reality, like, my arm goes in many directions anyways. There's not really an up or a down. Yeah, like, technically when I look at it, it's always going to be upside down, I guess, unless I twist. But just, yeah, if you're going to pick something, if you have an idea in mind, picking a body part that it flows anatomically well with, I think is almost always
perfect.
Almost always best. If you have a placement that you'd like, then designing the tattoo to fit around that body part is normally, I think, the best situation for it. But I don't know, I did something very different with my sleeve, where I got a bunch of little ones, because I have the even star, I have the moon phases on my inner bicep, I have one on my forearm, and they were just very choppy and they're all over the place. And so in order to blend them together, I picked a piece that would flow easily. So I picked flowers, and there's a meaning behind the flowers, and I thought it all through. But the flowers and the leaves themselves are super easy. You can put a leaf anywhere on a flower, and so it was very easy to make it look like my sleeve is actually just one full piece, but it's definitely not. The tattoos were years apart.
Yeah, that's the same thing with my leg, kind of. I ended up just getting, instead of flowers, for example, I'd filled it out with what my artists like to call it was Waterception.
Okay, what is Waterception?
It's just like this, like, wood grain looking, oil spill looking, bunch of different things, kind of, just to, like, incorporate the whole piece as a one into, like, kind of, like,
that's the voodoo doll, right?
Bottom. Well, the voodoo doll with all this, like,
with all of the funky stuff coming off of it.
I wanted the voodoo doll, so he kind of just incorporated it all together to make it look like it was.
Yeah, and there's lots of things that you can do to make you have an idea, you want the voodoo doll, but let's make it flow without it looking choppy. Yeah, exactly. And you just have to add something, and I think flowers are a go-to for a lot of people. I think that's why flowers are so done with tattoos, because they're super easy to make the borders with and stuff like that. I know I have
tons of flowers, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. This was my first, like, floral piece. I actually didn't have any flowers at all until I got this one. That's why I thought flowers might be a fun idea to give a go to. I was thinking about doing it for my half sleeve, but then the flowers were overdone, so instead I used the shell and the seaweed as the framing bit, and then the clouds, basically, to encompass the ship. The ship is what I wanted, but everything else makes it flow better.
Yeah.
With everything else. No, and then totally. I kind of have it dipping over on this side a little bit, but then I have this sleeve dipping inwards to create the symmetry. Because me and you have two totally different, like, body pieces, basically, because you're all black and gray. And I have
some red and some color. My very first tattoo was a color piece.
Oh, right. That's true. That is true.
And I hate it. But it's okay.
It just doesn't go with your aesthetic now. And I think that that's another thing, too, is kind of thinking about, like, in
long term,
yeah. Like,
what do you want? That's the regrets everyone does.
Actually, I actually did that in the beginning okay, so there's one on this arm where it's just black and gray, and that's the only just black and gray piece that I have on my entire left side of my body. All of the pieces I have on my left side are all color, and all the ones I have on my right side are all black and gray. And I'm more tattooed on the side with black and gray because I find color to be more intrusive visually.
Well, it also doesn't age as well sometimes. You have to keep that in mind. It's something that you're going to have to go get touched up usually a little bit more to keep the colors a little bit vibrant, but...
It's true. I mean, it can happen with black and gray if you don't pick a good artist and they push too deep, it can cause bleeding. Yes. Yes, and like when you see someone that they have like a back piece or something like that, and you're standing behind them in line at a movie theater, and you're like, I wonder what that was at one point. That artist pushed too deep, and they just didn't do the proper steps. Always look in to your artists. I know even when the last times I went, I've been tattooed before, and it was just a random person, sort of. It was a friend piece. We got matching pieces. We went to the same person. I'd never seen her before, but when she was tattooing me and she was trying to do saturated shading, I could tell she didn't know what she was doing because she was pushing deeper to get more saturation instead of going over the area over and over again. I think that's another thing too that might help you decide if you want color or black and gray, is that you have to keep in mind that when you do color pieces, every single piece of the skin that you're getting tattooed on, the needle is going to touch that and it's going to saturate on that spot. Whereas when I do black and gray, I got away with just like a very tiddly bit on the rose. And it was easy. And I definitely have some dark parts to my black and gray, but it's not nearly the same. And it takes more time. And because it takes more time to get that saturation, I find that color pieces are more expensive.
Oh, yeah. They definitely can be a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, they can be pricier.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, just knowing what you're committing to and kind of having that plan for if you want to be black and gray, maybe you want to be all color. The color is going to be more painful. It's going to be more expensive. At least they changed it. When I first started getting tattooed, you had to sign a waiver when you get tattooed. And in the waiver initially, when I was 18, it said that you have to be aware that some people react to red, yellow, and orange pigment. And it's something that I don't see on the waivers anymore. I believe that they've changed the ink.
Sometimes.
Do you?
Sometimes.
And I've seen the reaction. It was just like this chick she had on her arm, and it basically just made a bruise like 3 times the size.
Oh, I've seen some bubbles too. But like, I feel like that's different reactions, maybe.
Yeah, different people have different reactions. I know in order to get around this, on my first tattoo, I have a heart on my ankle that is half red and half black. And I made her, I wanted the tattoo to be like that, but it also gave me a small patch of skin where I was able to test to see if color was even an option for me. Because if you can't do red, yellow, and orange, I would honestly just recommend doing black and gray work. Because you're going to be dealing with only the cool side of the color wheel. And I don't think that it's going to complement it overall.
No, totally. I get what you mean. Yeah.
But yeah, and I think that moving forward, so yeah, those are our tiddly bits for trying to pick out where you go, and not an anatomy, flow, trying to decide long term what you're after. But there's also the creative side to picking a piece. And I think that, I don't know,
I feel like a lot of life things, you can take things from it and make really cool ideas out of it. Just try to make something original. Try not to hop on Pinterest all the time. Yeah, I get trying to find a reference once you've come up with something original. And it's good to give your tattoo
artist a couple visuals about what you're thinking, because people aren't mind readers.
Yeah, no, but don't be getting the 60th goddamn. I mean, do you? But
yeah, do you? But I mean, at the end of the day, there's a reason why tattoo artists laugh about we're not doing any more infinity symbols with birds flying off of it. Kind of.
We're not doing any more butterflies.
Yeah, and I think that there's lots of there's good ways to think of tattoos. Normally, I have a few different methods for it, and sometimes when I'm really hurting, I'll just look for things that I think could make cool pieces. And so on my ribs, I have the 4 nation signs from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Thank you. It was such a commitment. I just stood there almost passing out, going, I'm an airbender, I am an airbender. But in the beginning of Avatar, when I was watching it, it shows up and it's fire, earth, and it shows that's the intro. I'm not making it up. That's what happens. And I noticed that the symbols themselves would probably make pretty good tattoos. I really liked the show. I liked the mentality. And then I ended up with a really cool elemental tattoo. And the fire sort of wraps around the side. And it flows anatomically with my bosom. Because, it does. The fire wraps around. Jordan did a fantastic job. And it does. It just sort of wraps around and then it chunks off and it just kind of chops off near my hip.
Love.
And I was just watching a show and I was like, you know what, that would make a really cool elemental tattoo. Yeah, and that's how I birthed the idea of my rib tattoo.